Well, stop watching the Russian Revolution oversimplified. The postman's just been. Also, stop eating that delicious homemade slushie.
My name?
Your name? US mail?
Yes.
Who could it be from? What is it?
It's the restaurant recipe badge.
And what's this wonderful letter? What does it say?
It says, "Thank you so much for your recent contribution to..." I don't know how to say that.
Perifractic.
Prairie Fractics retro recipes. By a small way of thanks, please accept the enclosed RR badge. Not only does this make the wearer look even cooler than they already did, but it can also afford them a free entry or other incentives to a growing number of retro computing museums around the world and the known galaxy.
So we need to get on that list and find out whether there's a retro computing museum here. We can go and see a real Vic 20 in real life. You've never seen one in real life, right? Imagine this poor boy, he's never seen a Vic 20 in real life.
And it's got stitches and a dog paw.
From Puppy Fractic, Lady Fractic and Perifractic. So thank you very much, Perifractic and the gang at Retro Recipes for that and for featuring us recently on the Retro Show. But we've got to get on with coding. So we'll wear the badge. In fact, I'll wear the badge. Yeah? I'll wear the badge. Let's get on with coding. It's time for us to go retro! Wow. That was amazing. So since we sat down to do some coding last, it's been a couple of days. We've had a nice little break by the sea, haven't we? Ed Sheeran used to work in this car park. Ed Sheeran used to skateboard here. Ed Sheeran agreed with that sentiment. Ed Sheeran went down his footpath. Ed Sheeran constantly flouted these rules. He's been there long, Ed. You want to be served? Ed Sheeran wanted to buy that house. Apparently Ed Sheeran got his first credit card in there. Ed Sheeran still got ring books back to that line. Ed Sheeran grew that liquor stick.
Shut up.
Ed Sheeran used to eat and donut. Quick recap of that. And we've only got like 15-20 minutes today before I need to go outside and cook burgers. Burgers. Hot dog.
I love burgers.
We must barbecue because right now it isn't raining and it's been raining quite a lot today. So, and we need some dinner, right? So we need barbecue. And that's far more important. As important as retro coding is, barbecue is far, far more important. So, let me just recap what's happened. Because last time, I think you were kind of losing the will to live a little bit, which happens sometimes. You know, sometimes this stuff is hard to figure out. So, when we last saw the code, I was about to start creating the logic here, which deals with which directions we're going to sniff in. So, do you remember how we do a loop? Can you remember?
4.
Yeah, 4 and the next. That's it. Perfect. So we have a loop that's going to go around our 8 directions, north, south, east, west, etc., and all those in between. And we've now written a logic in here that makes our B only sniff in directions that make sense. So if it were at the edge of the screen or in the corners of the screen, you'll only sniff in logical directions. It won't try and sniff off the screen. Because I'm not sure what would happen if you tried to sniff off the screen. Imagine you tried to sniff outside of reality. You'd have to open up a wormhole into a new dimension and sniff in there. How could that happen? How could you do that? That's not possible. That's not general relativity or quantum mechanics or any of that stuff, is it? Or is it? You tell me.
It is.
It is.
I can do it on Sundays.
You can do it on Sundays. How do you do it?
You do it.
You just do it. You
Yeah.
just create a singularity and then sniff inside it, like a mini black hole.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting. We'll have to try that on this Sunday. Anyway, so we've written that logic. And now what we need to do is basically get our bee to actually sniff at last. So I've realised that this part here that we wrote, which was basically working out how many directions the bee's going to need to sniff in, is a bit redundant. Actually, I think we need to redesign and get rid of that stuff, because I don't think we now need it, because of the way we've changed how the rest of the code works. Do you agree? Why do you agree?
Because we have it here.
Yes, we do. We do have it there. So I'm going to get rid of that. Cling!
No, don't forget.
What? You're going to do a renumber? Wow. Look at you. Go for it. Cling! There we are. That's great. So now, this code, the other thing we learned in our last attempt at building this thing was that we could create an array. And I called you dim. No, I didn't. We used the dim command. And you told me I couldn't read. No, you didn't. We used the read command to load the list into memory, the list of compass directions, which is that code there. So now we have that in memory. All we need to do is get our bee to perform a sniff in the appropriate direction if he finds that the directions he's sniffing in are valid. Okay, so we can code that now. So one last bit of code just in here that we need to do is basically to, at 375, we need to set SD of I equal to 0. And that reason for that is so that to start with, each element in the list, each entry on the list of our array will be set to 0. Otherwise, we could find that we get random results if we don't do that, because there could be some old data left in there from the last time he sniffed. And if we don't set them all to 0 as we go around the loop, we could end up in trouble. All right? Okay, so we've done that part. And it feels kind of inefficient, but I'm just going to go with it because we're going to have to do another loop now going around 0 to 7 times. But I think that's fine for now. We'll maybe tweak it later. So if we go to line, let's go to line 47, let's go to 471. We'll just do another renumber in a minute. So I think we need another loop, because what we're going to do now, so now we are actually going to do the sniffing. But we're only going to sniff if our array, which is called SD, which stands for sniff directions, has got a non-zero value in it. Now, having told you that, could you code that now? Have you learnt enough? So we need a loop, 0 to 7, okay? We have a variable I that we can use, pre-set up, all right? We need to use the peek command, and I can help you with the screen RAM address when we get to that part. But we only need to use the peek command if SD of I, which is SD brackets I, close brackets, is not 0. Not equal to 0. You want to give that a go? Go ahead. I'm going to go get my glass of squash. If you're stuck, ask.
I'm stuck.
Okay, look at line 370.
Oh, you have to do the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, next line. Yep. So that starts our loop. So the next piece we need to do is say if the sniff direction that we're currently on,
1, 2, 7. No, 7.
no, not quite right. So the sniff direction is an array. It's our list, if you remember. And the way we access the individual entries on the list is using the index. And we're going to use our I variable as the index. So if you see up here what I've done, every time I'm using sniff direction, SD, I've got that funny brackets and I, which is equivalent to saying SD of 1 or 2 or 3. It's the first entry on the list or the second entry. And as we go around the loop, I will change. You get it? So you need to change that slightly to use that index.
So is it SD?
What are you thinking? Bracket, yeah? Yeah. Yeah. So F2 of I, so we only want valid sniff directions, and it will only be a valid sniff direction if SD of I is not 0.
So,
and if we want to say not equal to, we can use the less than and the greater than sign like that. Sorry, like this. Yeah? Sorry about that. Throwing myself in front of the camera like I always do. Yeah. Yeah, so you can get rid of the equal sign because that will just confuse things. Yeah, so if SD of I is not 0,
0.
then we always say, after an if, we always say,
Then
yeah, yeah. We want to do the peak.
peak.
Yeah. Yeah. And the peak we want to do is the B position. Can you remember the variable for the B position? Yeah.
BP?
Yeah. And then we've got to either add on or take away the number that's in SD of I. Yeah?
So
Because that will either be minus 22, minus 21, 1, etc. Yeah? Then peak, so we do peak. Yeah? And it's BP
oh,
plus S, yeah?
plus SD,
Of I.
then of his brackets.
Yeah, when I say of, I mean the brackets. Yeah. Yeah? So if B position is 7, 6, or let's say, I don't know, 8185 or something, it will do 8185 minus 22 and it will check to the north. There's 22 lines in a row.
And then if it does minus 21, it does
Yeah.
north, west.
Yeah.
No, east.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So then don't forget that we're in a loop, so we need to finish off our loop. You remember how we do that? Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Is that all?
Next I. Yeah. Let's say next I.
Oh.
Yeah. That's it. So when we do that peak, we need to remember the number somewhere. So we probably need to put it into a variable.
So wait, what do we need to put into a variable?
The what goes into the peak, what comes from the peak. So if we create another variable,
Peak sum.
it can be something like
PS. PV.
yeah, PV. PV's fine. Well, we'd do that within the loop, wouldn't we?
Oh.
Yeah. So we do then
I
PV.
need to make this 4.
We can do it within that line now.
Oh.
So if SD of I is not equal to 0, no, we don't need that there. It's after the peak. So before, just before the peak. So then SV. Is that what we're going to call it? PV. No, PV equals. Yeah, and you can put the let in if you want. Then let PV equals peak. Yep. So that will put whatever value is in that screen RAM address into that variable. Okay. So now, have a quick renumber. So now we, in theory, should have.
Sniffing.
We've got sniffing, yeah.
Shall we try
And
it?
it's within a loop. So what we need to do within the loop is check to see if the bee sniffs a flower, then we move him to the address of the flower.
To the flower.
Yeah, which would be BP plus SD of I. Okay?
So can we look at it? Look what it looks like right now, like on the thing.
What, by running it?
Yeah.
We won't see any results yet.
Oh.
Because we've not written the code for it to draw the bee and to move, because they were the other steps on our flow chart, if you remember. Basically what we need to do is say if, what was it? PV?
PV.
If PV equals 88, then we found a flower. Yeah. If PV equals 88, then we need to move the bee position to that location. Yeah. So do you think you can figure out how we would code that? And it needs to go. Well, where does it need to go? Do you think? Where does that line of code need to go? Does it need to be within the loop or outside the loop?
In the loop?
Yeah, in the loop, definitely. So you can put it at line 501 or 505, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So you need to do your if statement. So have a think. What was it again?
If I is it the same thing? 0 to 7.
No.
If
what we're doing is we're checking to see.
PV equals 88.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
Then.
We need to move the bee to the flower. And to move the bee to the flower, the only way we've got of doing that is to set the bee position. So we'd have to assign the bee position a new number.
Set one.
It's let, isn't it?
Oh yeah, let.
Yeah.
BP.
Yeah. Equal. Yeah. And what do we need to let it to? Set it to. Where is the flower?
PV. No. Where? I don't know.
It's the same address as you checked for PV.
Oh.
Which is what?
BP.
Yeah.
SD.
Of I. Yeah.
Do I need to write BP as well?
Yeah.
Plus.
Yeah.
SD.
Yeah. Now we could draw the bee. So now we can write a subroutine to draw the bee in that position. Yeah. So.
No.
If you do are you doing a renum?
Yeah.
Cool. Done. Do a quick save.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. So did you get that? You get what we've done now. Okay. So now we need some code. Which let's put that at just line 600. Let's do a new subroutine at line 600. Yeah.
Go sub.
No.
Oh.
Go sub is when we want to call a subroutine.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's call this one. Well, let's do a remark first and tell the future programmers who look at our code what we're doing.
Is this draw B?
Yeah, draw B. That's right. So this is the draw B box on our flow chart. That's right. Yeah. So do you remember how we drew things? How we got all the flowers on the screen? Which command did we use?
I don't remember. Check here. Poke.
That's right, it was poke. Yeah. Now, what we're going to need to do, though, see if you can figure this one out, right? When each time we draw the B, it's got to appear to suddenly appear in one place, right?
And get rid of the other place.
Yes, yes.
Because then it'll just leave a trail.
Correct.
Bees.
Yes. So we have to wipe out the B position, the old B position. We have to clear that out before we draw it in the new. Yeah. So what we need to do, first of all, is to remember where the B was so we can wipe it out. Yeah. So when we call this subroutine, the B position should be set to where we want it to be drawn next. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to do is write some code in here to remember the last position the B was in, so we can wipe it out. Yeah. So we could create another variable to do that, and just assign that the value of BP before we exit the subroutine.
What should we call it? The variable.
LP.
So
last position. Yeah.
So let
Yeah.
LP
Yeah.
equals where the big last was. So
Yeah. Just BP.
BP.
Yeah. That's it. So then if we put in a line before this, and we poke LP, which is our last position, with the value of a space, which is 32, I happen to know. So LP, comma, 32. Yeah.
Space, just like nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next line, we need to actually draw the B in the new position. So we've wiped it out.
So yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. Now we're drawing it in the new position. So
Poke.
yeah.
What's the B called? The thingy for the B?
BP.
Oh.
Oh, you mean
The B.
B character? I have to look back on OneNote.
No.
It was 65, but did we put it in? We'll have to look in our glossary. Did we put it in a variable?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Ah, that's what you were asking. Excel. That'd be ready glossary.
Yeah, icon. Where's B icon? I remember we didn't make a B icon.
Maybe we didn't.
But BH is
Hive
beehive,
icon.
and FC is flower. No, FI is flower eye.
Yeah.
So maybe we need one.
Maybe we do.
So BI or
Yeah, BI's fine.
is that
I think.
one already?
No, we haven't got a BI already.
Okay, so B.
Yeah.
So wait, where was this?
Well, we'll have to put that in the main program
Okay.
in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was.
So do you want to put it in the glossary first, and then
Uh-huh.
we'll put it into the code? Right. So then we poke BP, that's our B position, with our B icon.
How do you do with?
We put the comma,
Oh, comma.
yeah,
B. I will put that in there.
in the main. Yeah, that's it. Go do that now. Cracking.
Where should I put it?
Line 119, and yeah, put it. Yeah.
Wait, 119.
Yeah, hang on. 119 will be down
Oh.
there. We need to do a renumber really in a minute. That's okay.
I made this both. Oh, where's? Oh, here.
What I can do, we can do a little trick here actually. Let me show you a little trick what you can do. So, oops, you can actually you could just add that to this line. You can add more commands to a line.
Oh, so that again.
You can, but what you need to do first is put a colon like that. And then you can put more than one command on a line. It's a handy little trick to save space.
VI
Yeah.
88.
Was it 88?
No, 65.
65. Yeah, that's it. That's that set up.
Okay, I just need to put that.
Oh, okay, fine. Can you remember what you need to end each subroutine with to make it
Return.
go? Correct. So put one of those in. Put a
Maybe
return.
even... Oh yeah, read this.
So now what that's going to do, each time we call that subroutine,
It's gonna go there, do it, and then go back.
it's going to wipe out where it was
Oh.
with 32 with a space. Then it's going to draw it at the new location. Then it's going to remember that location in LP. Yeah. So then if we change BP elsewhere, like in our sniff command, in our sniff routine, it will still remember where it was before, even though we changed BP. Yeah. So we've always got that last value. Now, what we could really do, and I might do this off camera, is just put some checks in here to make sure that LP and to make sure that BP is definitely within range of 7680 and 8185, just because I'm old school and I like to put the error checking in. But we won't do that now on camera. I'll do that later as a bit of a tidy up in between episodes.
We never put in this RW and CL.
Yeah, we did. There they are.
Oh, I thought we did.
Row and column. There they are. So I think we might be ready to give it a try. I'm quite nervous.
What? Press the run?
Yeah, to actually run it. I feel quite nervous.
Where's it gone?
I feel quite nervous. Well, I don't know. I'm scared.
Let's do it.
Do a save all.
Oh yeah, file, save, file.
Well, normally what I click is that shortcut button on the toolbar.
Oh.
Not that one. The next one. The one that says save all. That's it.
Okay.
That saves everything that's changed.
Uh,
Right. The one thing we haven't done, though, we're about to make a schoolboy error. We haven't called our subroutine.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. I was like, what?
What?
Have we done that?
Yeah. So we need to do that in the main one. Yep. Yep. Yeah, so it's only going to do that once. So we need to put in something to make it go back.
A loop.
Well, we don't need a loop. We can just get it. We can put it in a loop by using a go-to command, which just makes the program jump around. So you can tell it to use the go-to command to tell it to jump back. Now, if we just look, where do we need to jump back to? For now.
B movie line 600.
Yeah, which we're calling at line 149. So we can just do. We need to go back and do a sniff each time, right? And calculate the position of the B. So we actually need to jump back to line 142. If we do go to 142. Yeah, that'll just jump it out, and then it will just keep looping around
Until it's done.
until, well, we need to complete the simulation. But what it will do is it will just keep sniffing and moving around because we haven't done anything with the pollen points, or what it needs to do is fly back to the hive, but we haven't coded that yet.
Or should we try?
But we can try this and see what happens.
How do you do it again?
Save all. Click the
save all.
disk. Yeah, we go to build, project, and run. Go.
Do, 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 do.
It's coming. It's coming. Give it a second. Oh, line numbers are not sequential or invalid. The build failed. Syntax error in 400.
No.
But look, we drew flowers. 400. Luke,
Yes.
so excited I had to call you.
What?
I've got something nostalgic to share with you in this,
Nostalgic.
in this completely unplanned way.
What could it be?
Well, I sort of mentioned it to you the other day, but you remember this guy? Hang on. Do you remember this guy?
What? Hit character from show Robots Big World?
Hit movie star robot character Big World.
Yes, I do remember him.
As voiced by, was it, who did his voice? Was it Mel Brooks?
No idea.
Ewan McGregor was the main character from the movie, which
Was indeed.
you did love when you were tiny.
I did love.
We
I
did
still
used
do
to
love.
we did used to snuggle up and watch Robots quite a few times. In fairness, anyway, right. This is terrible, but I just want to show you this. Right, okay. You've been using this shower gel in the
I
bathroom.
can't see.
Yeah, wait. Can you
No.
can you see the shower gel?
No, you need to stop sharing your screen.
Oh, okay. Let me stop sharing my screen. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. There we are. So you've been using this
Yes.
shower gel, right? Can you, if I turn it upside down, can you see? Is it just me? Can you see the face of Big World appear as I get it?
Yeah, I can. I
you-
can see the face of Big World.
And now you've seen that, you can't unsee that.
No.
It's Big World, and he's now moved on to the Nivea shower gel bottle.
It is Big World.
So is that
He
what?
lives on.
That's what happened to him after the movie Robots. He went to work for Nivea as a model, and there he is.
Good for him.
Good for Big World. So that's
Growing up in the world.
yeah, he is. Yeah. So that was this episode 4 of Retro Coding. That was the nostalgia break. I know you're an avid viewer. Yeah, I know you're an avid viewer. You love the
Every episode.
yeah. Well, thanks for your input, Luke. And have a
No problem.
Have a great bank holiday Monday, won't you? Weekend.
Yeah. Yes. You too.
Okay, thanks then. Goodbye now.
Bye.
Cut.
Cutted.
This has been an epic episode. How I'm going to edit all this down into something consumable by the average human intellect is beyond me. But that's a job for next week. However, to finish off episode 3, Will, with your incredible hair this morning, this is a classic bed hair look for Winter Will. And you're looking very droopy in the eyes this morning. Well, I should say this afternoon, in fact. It's summer holidays, can you tell? Sleeping in late. Anyway, in episode 3, we've learnt some things, and it's been quite epic, to be honest. We've learnt by doing, I think. And I feel like you need a kind of final exam for episode 3. Because up to now, we've seen you help me. We've pair programmed, let's say. Up to now, we've pair programmed the point where we draw the world with the flowers and the beehive and the bee, and we've started to animate the bee, and he now can sniff for flowers as he moves around the screen. But when we last left off, we got to the point where we ran the code and it didn't work. So in between, I've been doing a little bit of fixing, realised that actually we needed to do a little bit more coding work than we thought. So we're going to recap now. We've learnt about character remapping, which I'll go over in a minute, and some really useful and friendly people on the Commodore Vic 20 Facebook group helped me out. So thanks, guys. If any of you, I think some of them have actually watched the video as well, episode 1 and 2, which is really nice. So thanks for that, guys. We'll go back over bee sniffing and what we needed to do to code the bee sniffing. And yeah, then we'll wrap things up because I've got to cook Sunday dinner. Yeah. So, oh, look at that. Pretty. Yay. Okay, so let's jump over to PRG Studio. And let's take a look. All right, so when we last left off, we'd coded bee sniff and we got it to run, but the bee wasn't moving. And there was a reason for that. Can you remember why? It's all about where the bee is drawn first. Do you remember where the bee is drawn first?
In the spot next to the hive 7681.
Very good. Yes, indeed. Exactly. He's remembering screen RAM addresses now. He's a proper Vic 20 guy. So, yeah, absolutely right. And the problem was that there were no flowers around the bee. And we hadn't coded
to randomly move.
Correct. So if you go back to our flowchart, which we've got in Publisher now, because we kept having problems with Smart Draw, we hadn't coded the bit that says choose, there you go, that's it, choose random direction. So all we had was more turns, yes, keep sniffing. So that's what the bee was doing. He was just keeping sniffing, which is fine. It's not a problem. Just means we hadn't implemented that bit of our backlog, which is fine. So what I discovered was that although PRG Studio is awesome, if you just pop back to PRG Studio, Will, and it lets you redefine your characters, pop into our character set, Will. This is one of the awesome things about PRG Studio and why it's such a useful tool for anyone setting out on this journey. We have drawn all our icons. We've got our bee, our bear, our flower, and our beehive, which I've tweaked a little to make it look a little bit more beehive-like. And you'll also notice we had them spread through the character set before, and I've just pushed them to the top of the character set. So these are now characters 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So whereas in our OneNote you were saying it was 65 and 88, etc., that's now changed. But because we've been clever and we'd used variables to hold our icon codes, just had to make one change in one place in the code, and that was implemented throughout. So that's a good lesson in using variables to store these things, because you just change it once and you don't have to go through all your code looking everywhere as to where you reference that screen RAM address for, or screen character code for the bee or the bear. So that was good. But what I did find out, and this is what the guys on the Facebook group for the Vic 20 helped me with, is that you need to do some coding, which is a little bit complicated, which is all about remapping the characters. So if you pop back to PRG Studio, it's 0, 1, 2, 3. Can use that. It's gold, that is. That's absolute gold. So what we had to do was to not only draw our icons in the character set as we've just seen, but we also had to actually change the Vic's memory to use those character icons. Okay. Now, when you first turn the Vic on, it loads all the characters. I think there are 200 and, is it 250? No, 64? Something like that. 64 different characters, quite a limited set of characters. Might be more than that. Might be 256. Can't remember. But anyway, it's not important right now. And it stores them on a chip. Yeah, all those little icons that we drew are all stored in numbers on the chip. Hardwired, if you like, in the chip. So you can't, because it's ROM. Do you know what ROM stands for?
ROM. Real orange magnitudes.
Close. It's read-only memory.
Oh.
Yeah. So read-only means you can't change it. You can only read it. You can't write back to it. So what you have to do is take a copy of that information for each icon that's stored on the ROM chip inside the actual Vic, or in the software version in our case. And you take a copy of that, and then you can then change it. And what you have to do is tell the Vic, don't get your characters from the ROM anymore. Please get them from this area in the RAM. So what I've done, and again, with the help from the guys on the VIC-20 group who helped me out with this, and also one of the best things that was suggested to me was to read this book. So this is the VIC-20 Programmer's Reference Guide. And this section here, starting from page 82, tells you all about what we've done here when we redefine the characters. So that's well worth a read. And once I read that, I really understood what we were doing. So up here, we have to change the VIC's memory so that we
Get it from RAM.
Yeah, well, what we do here is we reduce the amount of memory that the basic programs can use, and we save a little bit of memory for the characters. So I've taken the first 64 characters, because we're only needing to use 3 at the moment, or 4 at the moment, and I've copied them into RAM. And that happens down here in this bit of code here where it says set up the characters here at line 240 onwards. So each of these data statements here, if you remember when we loaded our compass directions, we used the data statement. And in each data statement, we've got a number separated by a comma. And each of those numbers represents a line on our icon. Yeah, so when we look at our character set, here, the first row of our B is represented by, which is literally just got that dot coloured in, is represented by the number 8. And that's because it's using binary. This is where it gets a little bit complicated, but it's using binary. It's converting that number 8 into binary. So if you imagine that 0, that's 2, that's 4, that's 8, that's 16, 32, 64, 256. Yeah, that's the number 8 there. And that converts into that pattern of bits. Yeah? And that's what it's doing for each row of the icon itself, or the character. Okay? So that's why we've got all these numbers here. And then this code here is a little loop, little for next loop. We're getting used to those. And all that does is read this data, and then it pokes it into our memory locations and redefines those characters, changes the ROM code into what we want. And then this little command here, this poke, tells the Vic, switches the switch to say, don't look at the ROM anymore. RAM. Use the RAM. Yeah. And actually, I've just noticed a bit of hard code in here, which I can take out. I can actually take that. Oh no, I can't. I'll probably, yeah. See, I don't like that. I'll change that into a variable later, maybe. Trouble is, it's a trade-off between the amount of memory you use doing things like that and the amount of memory that you're going to save by doing that, and the complexity of the program, stuff like that, because you're only still limited. We've only got about 600 bytes free now in the program here, so we're running out of memory. Hopefully it'll be enough for us to. It depends how good we are at programming and how much we can crunch the code down. We might have to take out all these REM statements, but we'll leave them there for now because they're helpful. So we did that. We redefined the character set, and hey presto, as we'll see when we run the code in a minute, we actually had the icons. We had a proper looking bee, hive, and the flowers were all there as we expected, which was great. So we'll see that in a minute. How's the iced coffee? I've got mine here.
Very good.
Provided by Winter Mum, who's now cutting the grass. But sorry for the noise, but hey, it's Sunday. That's what you do on a Sunday. You eat roast beef and cut the grass. Okay, So we got to the point where we drew the B. Then we needed to do the sniffing. We coded the sniffing. And we're calling all of that here. We've got our code to draw our flowers, our B sniff and our draw B code. And then we've got a loop. And what I've done here is put a little bit of code in that says, if anybody presses a key, end the program. And it resets the memory back to normal and ends the program nicely. So you just press any key to end the program now, which is another little thing that I crept in while you weren't looking. I've been having lots of fun with this when you've been busy upstairs playing Rust. Oh, believe me. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is your final exam for episode 3, the epic episode 3, is just go into the B movie code and can you take us through what we've done to randomly move the bee if he doesn't sniff a flower?
Well, this is saying if the B position isn't the same as the last position, return to the main, go sub.
Yeah, it just jumps back out of that routine to the main code. Yeah. So basically, if the bee hasn't moved, if the bee has moved after the sniff, we're all good. We can continue on and draw the bee. But what happens if not? If the bee hasn't actually moved at that point, if we haven't updated the B position, what happens next?
If B position is the same as the last position, then it chooses a random number from 0 to 7, which is the compass directions.
Yeah, excellent.
And then if it is, if it chooses a 0, which isn't valid.
Yeah.
It goes back to 525, which is the same thing, and it just does it again until it doesn't get 0.
So it finds a valid direction that we can move in, because we've put in some code to check to make sure we don't try and go into an illegal place without edge detection. We wish you could see this poor woman cutting the grass while we do coding. Let's wait till she heads up the other way. She's heading north on the compass.
-22.
Yeah. Hello, who's the other one? Rude. Recording it. We need a red light for recording in progress. Rude interruption from
Luke.
She's doing business. Okay.
This bit now we want.
Line 530. What's happening there?
So if the B position is the same as the B position, I can't remember what that bit does. It returns to the thing.
Well, what it's doing there actually. Let me give you a clue. If I just add some extra 3 bytes of code.
Left.
So what's that now do? Does that make more sense?
It's a variable.
Yeah, so what's it doing to the variable? Which variable is it?
BP.
Which is?
BP.
Okay, and what's happening to it?
It's in a random position.
Yeah, it is. We're just adding on the compass direction that we've said is valid. So if it's using our sniff direction array, so it's the random one that we've chosen. It's adding that to the current B position. So if it was moving north one line, it would be -22. So it's BP plus 22 basically, or plus -22, which would take it up one line. Yeah. Okay. So then what happens?
It loads the compass directions.
Yeah, which is the bit at the beginning that we just run once, but it then returns back to the main code.
Yeah, and this is drawn the B.
Yeah.
So if the B position is the same as the high value, the variable.
Yeah, where we stored the high value.
It goes to 630.
Yeah.
Which is here.
Yeah.
That won't happen.
Shouldn't happen. It's a bit of error checking, a bit of belt and braces stuff. Yeah. So then what happens?
If the last position,
yeah,
it draws the last position.
Yeah.
Of the B.
Yeah.
With 32, which is the there's how do you say it? What's it called?
What's this? What happens if you press this on the?
Yeah, I know, but it's space. But what's it called?
It's the character code for a space. Yeah.
It's the character.
The Petsky code for a space.
It's the code for the space.
Yeah.
And then this draws the B. This draws the B icon in the position of the V.
Yep. So we blank out where it was. We draw it in the new position, and because of our wonderful brains and eyes, it looks like it's moved. Then what happens? It's that woman with her lawnmower again. I think it's going to rain in a minute. That'll put a stop to it. The grumpy old mower.
Very long grass.
So what happens next after we've drawn the B? One last little thing to do.
CH plus BP minus HB.
Yeah.
It makes the B.
I can read. Thanks.
It makes the B yellow.
Yeah, it does. It makes the B, whatever B colour we've put into our BC variable. And then line 630?
If it lets the last position equal the B position.
Yeah. Why do we do that?
To get it back to the high? I can't remember.
Well, we do that so that we know whether the B's moved or not. So if you look up there earlier on in our code, we were comparing the current position with the last position to see if it had moved. She's heading north again. Okay. Well. Sniffing. Well, I think you did incredibly well to explain that to not only me, but everybody watching. Was that a dab?
Yeah.
Oh dear, oh dear. So I think you passed your final episode 3 exam. Well done.
I win.
Right, so at this point in the journey, before we run the code and enjoy it, how are you finding this?
Hoggy.
If you had to do this kind of thing for a job every day, would it be interesting for you?
Maybe.
Maybe.
If it's a good game. If it's a boring game, I won't do it.
Well, you've got to bear in mind that modern game development is very different to this. God. I think there's something wrong with the lawnmower.
Is there? Is it not cutting it very well?
Something wrong with it? Right, she's emptying it. What you've got to remember is that modern game development is very different to this in a lot of ways. Most of the stuff that we're doing here already exists in pre-built routines that you can just use when you go and work somewhere. If you're working for, I don't know, who wrote this Animal Crossing game? Who's responsible? Is it a Nintendo game?
Yeah.
If you work for Nintendo, all this stuff about detecting the edge of the screen and all that, simplistic. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You probably code in a thing called Unity, which is
I can't have it.
Yeah, your friend Callum has Unity. Is that good? You make any more noise with that? Yeah. Yeah. So if you went off to university to try and do this, you use tools like Unity, which make life, you just literally draw your characters, and a lot of that stuff, the pre-animation stuff, is already done for you. But you need to understand the basics of this to, pardon the pun, to to be able to even, make a start. You need to understand what these basic commands are doing. Right, well done.
Let's run it, let's do it.
Build, project and run. And let's leave everybody watching our bee move around the screen. Until next time.
Bye.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. 13-year-old reacts to code he wrote. Thumbnail. Thumbnail. It's cool though, look, he's really moving.
He is.
Oh, before we sign off, there is one thing we need to do.
What?
Tick off these items on our backlog. That wraps it up for this bank holiday special edition of Retro Coding Virtual Life on the Commodore Vic 20. Thanks for sticking with us this far. Do visit the winterfan.co.uk website and give us some love there. Here on the site you'll find lots of awesome knowledge in our awesome knowledge section, and recently we built a SpaceX Starship from my old Lego from the 1970s and 80s, which was good fun, and we learned an awful lot about rockets at the time. So do check that out. Also, if you have a moment, if you head to the homepage of the Winterfan website, you'll find a link to download a free short story. That'll help us keep in touch with you if you're interested in what we're doing. We're a tiny YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate your support through downloading that free story and helping us keep in touch. But yeah, apart from that, do enjoy your bank holiday. Here in the UK, it's looking kind of grey, unfortunately, and the grass needs another cut by now. So do take care until the next time. We'll see you again soon. Bye bye.
So we sniff the flowers and we move the bee. Bye.
Yay!